Joined today to my left, Deputy State's Attorney Brenda Quaddy. To my right, as you all know, Chief O'Shea with the Rockford Police Department. We're here today to talk to you about another pandemic in our community, and that is the pandemic of gun violence, gun injuries, gun deaths. We are going to share with you some open investigation and also some recent charging decisions that my office has made. We have had 32 gun arrests in 30 days. Currently, according to the FBI statistics in 2017, 60% of all murders involved handguns. In 2019, 15,292 people were fatally shot in the United States, and that was a 3% increase over 2018. In addition to the 2019 deaths, the injuries from gunfire, according to the Gun Violence Archives, 29,501 in 2019. That's almost twice the deaths of gun violence. Children between the age of 0 and 11 killed 692. Teens between the age of 12 and 17, 3,068. So this pandemic is very real, and we need assistance from the community to address this pandemic. On July 25th, 2020, 4 individuals, James Lamar Brown, Michael Mallet, DeAndre Watkins, Whitney Watkins, were charged with weapon offenses. Rockford Police Department responded to Washington Park, which is a community park where children frequent. The officers found numerous casings in the park. 1 victim was shot. They were able to identify these 4 individuals, and they were charged. And these defendants are presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. Recently indicted individuals for weapons offenses in our community: Casey Lockhart, charged with unlawful use of weapon by a felon. Jacob Bagwell, charged with aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. Jamal Sims, possession of a stolen firearm, possession of controlled substance. Jerome Davidson, unlawful use of a firearm by a felon. Zachary Martinez, armed violence, unlawful possession of a firearm by a street gang member, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. Marcus Freeman, armed violence, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance. Joseph Threadgill, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, aggravated assault, domestic battery. Edward Hammonds III, unlawful use of a weapon. And again, these defendants are presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. Recently, several individuals have been arrested for weapon offenses in our community. Eric Posley, arrested for felony possession of a firearm, October 1st, 2020. 7 Glasgow, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, arrested October 1st, 2020. Dracar Malone, felony possession of a firearm, arrested October 1st, 2020. George White, unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a firearm, arrested September 30th, 2020. Malik Jackson, armed violence, possession of a gun, arrested September 29th, 2020. Niliquavius Thrower, unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a firearm, arrested September 29th, 2020. Juan Ceballos, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, aggravated battery, arrested September 28th, 2020. Janisha Hill, unlawful use of a weapon, arrested September 28th, 2020. Again, these defendants are presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. Continuing on within the last 30 days, as I mentioned to you, Javon Hill, unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a firearm, arrested September 25, 2020. Also arrested September 25, 2020, Keywan Woods for unlawful use of a weapon by a felon and possession of a firearm. Brian Price, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, no FOID, arrested September 22, 2020. Jeremiah Coleman, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and no FOID, arrested September 21st, 2020. Corey Sneed, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a stolen gun, arrested September 21st, 2020. Robert Winkleman, aggravated discharge of a firearm, aggravated assault, arrested September 21st, 2020. Madarius Wright, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, also arrested September 21st, 2020. Donald Gary, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, arrested September 18th, 2020. Isaiah Jones, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, arrested September 18th, 2020. Chaboni Bennett Jr., aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a gun by a street gang member, arrested September 17th, 2020. Desrion Hughes III, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. Aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a gun by a street gang member, arrested September 17, 2020. Ikeing Burks, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, arrested September 16, 2020. And again, these defendants are presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. Continuing on, Eliam Hicks, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of ammunition, no FOID, arrested September 16, 2020. Tyron Smith, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, aggravated battery to a peace officer, no FOID, arrested September 15, 2020. Christopher Westendorf Peak, possession of a gun, no firearm, arrested September 15, 2020. Darius Coleman, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, armed habitual criminal, arrested September 14, 2020. Nancy Lopez, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, possession of a gun, no FOID, arrested September 14, 2020. Brian Gaylor, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, possession of a firearm, possession of a defaced firearm, no FOID, arrested September 10, 2020. Brian Hernandez, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, no FOID, arrested September 9, 2020. Trevon Fair, aggravated unlawful use of a weapon, no FOID, arrested September 5, 2020. And again, all of these defendants are presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. These numerous weapon offenses that I've gone through for you shows the need that we have for help from the community to eradicate the illegal guns that have permeated our community and that have increased the gun violence and deaths in our community. We have had several murders in Rockford this year. The most recent murder that we have charged was Demiria Jiwa Finley, date of birth November 21st, 1995. She's charged with first-degree murder, aggravated domestic battery against the victim, DeAndre Grant. The murder occurred Wednesday, September 30th of 2020. She is presumed innocent until or unless proven guilty in a court of law. This brings our murder count alone in Rockford this year to 22, and we still have several months to go in the year 2020. At this time, Chief O'Shea is going to come and address you regarding other investigations that are currently open. As always, we need collaboration and assistance from the community to help us keep you safe. So now Chief O'Shea will come forward.
Good afternoon. I think the numbers and the statistics that the state's attorney just gave for the month of September speak for themselves with regards to the amount of gun violence in the city of Rockford. It's off the charts this year. I said it previously, the last 3 years we've done a pretty good job as a community and as police departments and other law enforcement agencies driving down the violent crime. This year, starting in March, has been very, very trying, and we're 100% going the wrong way. And we really need the community's help to bring an end to it. This last murder that just occurred, the stabbing murder, happened on the eve of October, which is Domestic Violence Month. This is a domestic violence murder. It just brings more light to the murders are not just always shootings and always gang members. It's also domestic violence that still remains out there. So I want to point that out going into the month of October. Some of the unsolved murders we've had, well, a lot of these we believe are interconnected with certain factions of street gangs that, for whatever reason, are having conflict. We believe at this point most of them are intertwined. They've left us with a lot of unsolved murders this year. Where we've done pretty well in solving murders in the past, this year has been very trying. The individuals that are deceased is just part of the problem. They've got mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, children that now are growing up fatherless or motherless. And this is a big problem in our community, this year particularly. Some of the cases, and we talked about them before, these are all unsolved so far this year when the murder started in March. Trayvon Laird was 23 years old. Anthony Warren was 16 years old. Those two were in March. Larry Brown in May, he's 34 years old. Jadale Lyman, he's 29, that was in June. Sherman Wilkes III, he was 16, that was in June as well. Going into July, we had 3 in July. Jamiros Reed, who's 23, Deontay Chapman, who is 19, Christopher Lerma, who is 33. Going into August, we've got 4 that are unsolved. Lamarius Hollingshed, who is 20. Either anonymously or in person, and provide information so we can solve these murders. It's a select group that has caused the vast majority of the gun violence. As you can see from the numbers and the arrests just in the last month alone, the amount of people we're arresting with guns has gone up exponentially. So far this year, we've recovered 205 guns since January. I know in the last 11 days, just 2 of our street gun violence in the community. We've also had 124 victims hit by gunfire this year in the city of Rockford, which is up from last year already. We just entered October. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And we really need the community's help to come out, help us find these individuals that committed these murders, that are doing the shootings. We are not alone in this. There's violent crime jumping up all around us. Some of the individuals that are perpetuating the crime in Rockford are it's no secret they're stealing cars from other jurisdictions, other cities, other towns. They're coming here and they're using those vehicles and guns to commit shootings here and then fleeing back to other jurisdictions. We really need the public's help. I can't say that enough. We need information. Please call the Detective Bureau. Please help us solve some of these unsolved murders. Please help us get these violent individuals off the street and make Rockford safer. We still got 3 months left in 2020. The COVID pandemic's taken its toll. The gun violence pandemic is a whole other animal, and we can control this. COVID, a lot of natural forces in that. We can't control a lot of the COVID stuff. We can mitigate some of it. This we can 100% control. And it's up to the community members to work with us. I hope that they will. Appreciate it.
At this time, we're happy to take any questions that you may have. And my comments, again, echoing what Chief O'Shea said, is to the community members out there, just walk in the shoes and view these crimes through the lens of those who have lost a loved one. And certainly you would want someone to come forward to help us help them move forward in getting justice for their loved one who was taken too soon. You know, the loss of life not only affects the community, it affects the family, but it's an infinite effect, because those individuals are never allowed to reach their full potential and to contribute to society worldwide. So again, if you have information, you can report it anonymously. Sometimes there is a culture, do not talk to the police or do not cooperate with the police. But I ask you this, when you are in trouble and you need help, who do you call? You call the police. And I'm asking you, if you see something, say something and call the police. Any questions?
What do you think's causing the increase in gun violence this year?
Well, there are a lot of factors. As the chief said, it certainly is easy to get guns in our community. They come from all over the place, but also many of the individuals who have illegal guns are emboldened because they know that individuals will not report them. And so they are emboldened to permeate our community with these illegal weapons. And we all know that sooner or later, if you have a weapon illegally, you are going to use it to commit a crime in the community.
Chief O'Shea, you've mentioned that these two factions have been a large issue for some time now, and I think you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but what's it going to take to get these two factions to stop, at least to a large part, really raising the death toll, the gun violence toll in this community?
You know, I'd like to say that we can arrest them all and incarcerate them, and that'll solve the problem. That's not going to solve the problem. We need friends and family members of those individuals to also step up and say, you know, a tit for tat and killing one and killing one and killing one. How many children are we leaving fatherless while this is going on? How many mothers and other family members are we leaving just, you know, completely torn apart for the rest of their lives? I mean, at some point, people have to I don't know, reach in and look into their own soul and stop perpetuating this crazy violence over, a lot of times, just meaningless, really superfluous stuff. From our end, we're going to keep arresting them, we're going to keep investigating them, we're going to use every resource we've got, every agency we know, to keep grabbing them and keep trying to incarcerate them and get the weapons off the street. But the community members, that's how we solve crime. We always say it, the community solves its own problems, we're just here to help. 300 cops ain't going to solve the violent crime problem. So it's going to take community members to really push back, maybe the faith membership members, family members, to push down on these individuals and tell them enough's enough.
You mentioned much earlier on in the pandemic, especially when it came to youth crime, that you attributed a lot of that to COVID-19. Do you contribute a lot of what we see now to COVID-19 as well?
Sure. I mean, we're seeing a lot of juveniles, particularly with stolen cars and guns, driving throughout the city, aimlessly blasting away at each other. And whether that's pandemic-related, COVID-related, not being in school, but it all comes back to how were they raised, what kind of family, what kind of support mechanisms they have at home, who are they hanging around with. And that's the wayward youth, if you will, are the ones that fall into this lifestyle. So, you know, again, community can help on that. We're trying to do our part, trying to reach out to the kids younger. But when they get to their you know, that stage in their life, if they don't have a support mechanism, families, people that can guide them on the right path, they stray. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of that.
I know you mentioned your 300 officers are working really hard to stop this problem. Are you also not only going to have to tackle this, but also are you guys going to be enforcing the new COVID restrictions put forward by the IDPH in this region?
So COVID restrictions from the governor's office, I've been asked this already today, and I'll say that the city of Rockford We have always, and the mayor has always directed that the city of Rockford will always comply with the governor's orders. We as the police department haven't been that much involved because our legal department and our code department usually will enforce it through business license. And enforcement from the city has always been, and I think with most agencies as well as with, dare I say, other agencies like the state's attorney, we're not trying to go out and write tickets or arrest people. We're trying to gain compliance mostly by talking to people. But for the City of Rockford Police Department, we are part of the city, and we will act accordingly with the mayor's office. But generally, almost all the time, it's legal department, code department that handle the code restrictions for the City of Rockford. Thank you. Anyone else?